I'm Ron Gant, and I live here in Albion. I went to West Ward in 1939
Yeah.
to 1945.
Yeah. Okay. Do you remember where you were living when you went to school?
Yes, the house is torn down now. I lived at 106 North Gill Street. Some things are very clear and vivid, and then there's some that I just don't have a clue of when it happened. But I lived on Gill Street. The house was torn down. My dad was urban renewal. I was during the time of urban renewal.
Right.
And they tore our house down, and my dad was going to build a house right on the corner of Cass and Gale Street. It was going to be a brand new house, but he passed before he could get it done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember walking to school and who you might have gone to school with any time?
Yeah, I remember walking. During that time, they never called off school for snow. And it seemed like snow was up to our waist during that time. But they never called off school. They used to, the city used to plow the street with a snow plow and a horse. And they plowed the streets. But I had to walk to Westward. I had to walk to Westward, and then after that, walk to the junior high school.
Right. Did who were some of the people in your neighborhood, other kids, when you were in elementary?
Wow. Leslie and Jimmy Harris.
Okay.
We both lived on Gill Street, and about 4 houses from each other. The Harrises, during that time, you know, your parents wouldn't let you wander all over the neighborhood. And so I didn't go too far away from the house, but the Harrises, and there are some still living today. Leslie died.
Yeah.
It's past June, I think it was. But the Harrises,
Any of the woods? Yeah.
in the woods, yeah, the woods still there too, yeah.
Okay. Do you remember who your teachers were at Westward?
Oh yeah, My teacher was Mildred Biggs, and I don't know if it's necessary or not, but when I went, where was it? When I went to West Ward, one of my teachers was Mildred Biggs, and she put me back a grade. And was I ever mad, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I guess she knew what she was doing at that time, but I got set back. Mildred Biggs and Miss Stewart, I think her name was.
Yeah, Georgiana Stewart.
Yeah, Miss Stewart. And I never will forget this lady because I was kind of dealing in art at that time. Miss Phillips.
Yeah.
She was an art teacher. She was white, and Mildred Biggs and Miss Stewart, they were black. So Miss Phillips came over to I don't know what they're called. She came over to teach art to West Ward.
And that was, she was like a traveling teacher.
Okay, that's it, a traveling teacher.
Yeah, okay. Did you have Miss Holmes, Miss
Yeah,
Ferguson?
had Miss Holmes was the principal, and Mrs. Ferguson was one of my teachers too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was like as a little kid, just to go through a day at school, what you would do in the course of a day? Anything stand out?
My dad thought that I was too much of a teacher's pet. And he kind of felt that might have been one of the reasons that they held me back. And that was his way of thinking during that time. Because they held me back, and I was kind of like a handyman, showing the movies on the wall, running errands, this kind of thing.
Okay. Do you remember recess?
Recess was kind of, looking back on it, was kind of wild. We all went outside, and we had a few playground equipment, not very much, but we had, I guess, maybe enough to go around. To one that gets tired of it, and somebody else can take over. But recess was, it was really look forward to get out of the, getting cooped up in the building all day.
Do you remember who the custodian was when you were going?
I don't. Or was it Jim Sweet?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Jim Sweet.
Lived on Cass
He
Street.
lived on Cass Street, and he also had a part-time job as a barber.
Right.
He was a barber, and he's the one mostly cut our hair, and some of the particulars, the kids would say that you get your, Jim Street will give you a bowl haircut. You know, and they say put a bowl on the top of your head and just cut around it. You know, so some things I can remember.
Yeah, you're doing very well. You remember that he had a pop machine back then?
He had a pop machine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever have any contact with your teachers, but outside of school? Like at church or anywhere else?
No, I didn't have any contact with my teachers.
Okay.
No, I didn't. Sure didn't.
You remember any of the school's activities, like sports, the end of school picnic, or any kind of games or activities associated with the holidays, like Halloween parties, Thanksgiving, Christmas, any of that?
We used to have what is called, what was it called? A street dance.
Yeah.
It was a street dance where that all the kids in the neighborhood, they would come to West Ward and they'll dance out in the street. And the recreation department, I think Mr. Harry Williams was in charge at that particular time. And so I remember that very vividly.
Okay. And those were in the evening?
In the evening, yes.
Okay, over on Washington.
On Washington Street.
Yeah, okay. Were you ever like in the safety patrol?
I was a safety patrolman. Yeah, I sure was. You know, those things that's, it seemed like it was just been so long ago. And there's some that I never even thought of it again until today. Yeah, so, yeah.
Do you remember if there were any other kind of groups that were organized in school other than safety patrol?
No, that's the only one I can remember, safety patrol, yeah.
Okay. Do you recall, now you mentioned Miss Phillips coming from the high school to teach art. Do you recall any college students coming to the school to do either something in the school with students or to take kids up to the college for some kind of activity, a play or a holiday party?
I don't remember that. I sure don't. I'm quite sure that it had happened, but I don't remember it.
Okay. All right, so you walk to school every day. Let's talk about lunch. Did you go home for lunch, or did you eat lunch in school?
I went home for lunch. Yeah, we had a plate of beans just about every day. I walked home for lunch, and got there on time. And then when I went to the junior high, same thing. I walked home for lunch. I think everybody did.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what was the time period we had to eat lunch, but we got back on time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Do you ever remember any kind of nutrition break where they actually gave you something in school?
You know, we had apples, and then I can see why, because we used to have a lot of apple orchards around Albion, but they would always give us an apple. I don't know whether it was after school or before school, or just when that was, but we always got an apple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, seeing as you lived on the far west side of town, I want to ask you about this story. When we were growing up, I talked to my sister a couple weeks ago, and there was a story that was made to scare us, really, to keep us from going up to hang out. And the story went that if you got caught on West Ward around sundown, there was an old lady and her pigs, and they would chase you from the school ground. Do you recall hearing the story like that?
I don't recall that.
Okay.
Now, during that time, where did you all live? On Cass Street?
Okay, you know, we were dirt poor, so I moved 8 times in 18 years.
Okay.
So I lived right next door to the Harris house.
Okay.
Across on the same side
Okay.
when I was real little.
Okay.
Then we lived down on Washington Street, where it's a park now.
Okay.
It's like we were 3 houses or 4 houses in from Eden Street. They had just converted it from a cider mill to a house.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that.
So we lived there when I was, I know 2nd grade, I think 1st, 2nd grade, because Kathy Smith and them lived next door. Then I lived with my Uncle George on Cass Street, right next door to Jim Sweet.
Oh, okay.
And I think I can't remember what grades I was in, but I lived there. And then by the time I was in 5th grade, we lived around on Culver Street,
Okay.
right across the street from Woody Wilson.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then for my last year, we had moved, we were the first people to occupy our apartment in the projects.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was 52.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I wasn't allowed to go in that side of town.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't allowed to go on that side of town.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've heard stories from other people, and it seems that everybody was concerned about kids having to cross that railroad tracks.
Okay.
Because somebody was killed there. Some kids, because it used to be double tracks in those days, and one train had gone by and they started to cross, and they got hit by the other train.
Oh,
So there was a lot of concern about the safety of kids. Because even when, after I moved to the projects, I could have gone to Austin. I didn't want it. I wanted to finish with my friends,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
And so I told my mother to talk to whomever.
Okay.
And so I crossed the tracks.
Okay.
Um,
But getting back, I never did hear a story like that.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. Not many people have, but there have been two or
Okay.
three. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I want to ask you about the building, West Ward itself, just the building. Do you, in your memory, was it a cheerful place or was it gloomy? Was it bright, dark? How do you remember it?
I remember as a cheerful place, bright, and I think that was because of our art teachers. They let us, and fact, come to think of it, I did the same thing at the junior high. But any wall space, and if you, I guess you were considered a pretty good artist, then Miss Phillip will let you pick out a spot on the wall and draw a picture and paint a picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I remember that very well. It was a very cheerful place to me anyway.
All right.
Yeah.
Did you know that there was a basement to the school?
Well, I thought all the classes, yeah, I knew that.
No, there were no classes in the basement, but there was a basement to the building.
I believe I did. I did. But if I'm not mistaken, I thought they started using that for different classrooms. I know for art they did.
Okay, do you remember painting on the walls in the basement?
Yes,
Because
yes.
at some point, I remember, I think it was summertime, but I had to go into the basement, and I thought it was sort of like a mural, but it wasn't a big mural, but it was like something
big.
was on the wall.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I remember that.
On the exit that faced Dalrymple Street, you know, you go out the door facing Dalrymple Street, and the
Okay.
swings would be on the left-hand side.
The what?
The swings.
Yeah, on the left-hand side. Okay.
Yeah. Do you remember when you would come out, especially in the fall, right after school started, the trees and all those golden yellow leaves that would be out from the tree?
Okay, I wasn't paying that much attention at that time about the trees. You know,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you recall anything about the condition of the building? Like, did you ever see something and you thought, oh, that needs to be fixed? Or, well, let's take that first.
Well, no, I didn't. And it's probably at that time, I wasn't, I don't know, I wasn't observing things that closely to know whether this is good or this is bad.
Yeah, I don't think any of us did.
Yeah.
Was that also true about your books? You remember anything about the books you used?
No, and a little prejudice there because I've heard it from my siblings that was older than me that went to school there, that they were just raggedy and, but I don't remember calling that. When I saw a book, it just, to me, it just seemed like any other book that you will see, you know.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so you finished 6th grade and went to junior high in West Ward. Do you recall, let's see, you would have been, well, we'll find out.
Okay.
Do you recall anything about when they closed the school?
No, I don't. When they closed the school, I was in college at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in
I
college.
thought you might have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your family. Now, you lived, do you know when they came to Albion?
My family,
Yeah.
only from what they told me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they came from Pensacola, Florida.
Okay.
And that's about all they said. I'm quite sure they said so much more, but,
They say when? About what years?
oh no, I don't know. I wouldn't remember that.
Okay, but were you born here in
I
town?
was born right on Gill Street.
Okay, okay. And your house it was the one with stones, right? Were they like cement formed stones?
No, it was, my house was, wood frame.
Was it wood frame?
Wood frame, and I was, the first house on Gale Street, after you passed Cass, when you got to
When
Cass
you turn
Street.
the corner.
No,
Right on the corner.
right on the corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but sitting back though.
Mhm.
It was the first house, but it wasn't, see, the corner was Gale and Cass Street.
Right.
And I was back on Gale Street.
Okay.
But there was no houses there, just empty lots.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you recall in later times who lived, it would have been the north side of your house on Gale?
The north side of my house was the McCracklins.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the McCracklins, Joe and his family. And then, in fact, it was next door to us.
Right.
Then you turn the corner on Gale, and that was, I don't know how long they had been there, but when I remember, it was the Taylors.
Okay.
The Taylors, and then when you kept around the corner, it curved again, and that was a white family. And so we grew up with whites down in there. Yeah, we grew up with, it was the whites down in there.
Yeah. And I know later there were Mexican American people that, did you know Rudy?
Oh, Sedona.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
They were down there too.
They lived down there
They
too.
lived down in there.
Yeah, okay. And across the street from you on Gale.
Okay, that was Hobie Dixon.
Yeah.
Hobie Dixon was sort of a farmer. He had some livestock. He had a few cows and pigs and horses.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember once when I was real little, I don't know how I managed to get down there, but I was down and seeing at least 2 horses.
Yeah, he had horses.
Yeah, okay. Because he was a distant cousin of mine.
Oh, okay, Hobie Dixon was.
Yeah,
Okay.
Oliver Dixon's, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we got all that. And now, where did your relatives work?
There was only one place, the Malibu.
Okay, well, I didn't know if they worked there or
Yeah,
at
they
the
did
Gale.
Malibu, yeah.
Okay. When you were at Westward, were you aware, like say at recess, of smells coming from the Gale or smoke or soot, anything like that, blowing over into the schoolyard?
Yeah, the wind at that time prevailed out of the west,
Right.
and all the houses was on the west side. And at one time, the Malibu was paying car owners to have their car, what's it called? It wasn't, I guess, have it washed, kind of like shampoo the car, you know, because there was a lot of grit coming out of the smokestacks, and there was landing on the houses and the cars, and so we was on the west side. So what they did, I don't know whether it was the state or the city, said that, no, that's not true. So what they did, I was beginning to develop a little more into my brains, and they said, no, it's not coming from the factory. But what they did, they put up something to monitor what the smokestacks was putting out.
Right.
But what they did, they put those monitors out by Catching Field. And by that time, the wind had dissipated all of that, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay. So your father worked
At the Malibu.
at the Malibu?
Yeah.
And, now, what about your brothers and sisters?
Okay, I had my oldest sister worked at the Malibu. That's when he was having women at that time. So it must have been Second World War.
Yeah.
Somewhere along in there.
Yeah,
And I know she worked there. But my sisters, they got married early and they left Albion.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. And did you have a brother?
Oh, I have 4 brothers.
Okay.
You know, it's 4 of us. 4 brothers.
So
Five.
what about them?
Okay, they left too.
Okay.
Yeah, they left. Most of them went to Flint area.
Okay,
And I had a brother that went to college. He became a doctor. But my brothers, all my siblings, they left Albion very early.
Mhm.
Yeah.
okay. Do you have some questions for Mr. Gant?
But you stayed.
Yeah, I stayed.
So,
I stayed.
so tell us a little of your journey after you finished West Ward. Then you were away when West Ward closed,
Mhm.
and so did you go to service?
I was still in Albion, when West
Okay.
Ward closed.
Okay.
I never did go to the service. I just stayed around Albion and worked in different factories that was around there. And then after I graduated from high school, I left and went to Florida A&M. Yeah.
So did you work the factories while you were still in school?
No, I
Right
didn't
after.
work after.
After you'd finished school? Because I know some of the guys would go down there and work summers and.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, you went to Florida.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and so you did all your college there?
All of it down in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you come back to Albion?
I came back to Albion in 53. No, I graduated in 53. Yeah, I came back after I left Albion that summer for college, and I came back and I've been here since.
Okay.
So you took a job teaching after you.
Well, it was you'd have to know the black race to really know what I'm talking about. When I came back, the guys told me, you're not going to get a job teaching at Albion. And now, that was the hearsay.
Mhm.
That was my peers telling me that, you know. And I believed them. So I didn't even try to get a job. I just knocked around. I would go from factory to factory, and for a long time. Then I would get laid off, and I'd go to another factory, start working, and then it finally hit me that I was spinning my wheels. I didn't know that I was, you know. I was working at Union Steel, one that's down by the junior high.
Mm-hmm.
And I was eating lunch. I took my lunch with me, and I was eating my lunch, and I don't know why, but I kind of had my hands like this. I guess I must have been talking to myself. And all the lines in my hand was just pure black from I was working in the wire room, and in the wire room you make products using wire, and it was real greasy down there. And I looked at my hand, it was just so black, and I started crying. I'll never forget that. I started crying, And I said, Ron, this is what you went to college for? I was out of college. See? This is what you went to college for? And within a week, my sister, who was teaching in Detroit, called and said they had an ad in the paper for 500 teachers. So I pulled up state right then, and I went to Detroit, and I started steering my sister, and then I got me a place at the Y. And in fact, when I was at home, my sister called and said that I got a call from McElhaney, Odell McElhaney. He was a teacher in Albion. He was the principal. And he said that I had a job here in Albion if I wanted it. I told him to hold it. And I hold that job for me, and I came back down. That's how I got back to Albion.
Do you remember what year that was?
That's what I was gonna say.
I could find that out because that was the same year that I started teaching. I started teaching 63. No, that's when I
In the
graduated.
60s? It would have to have been in the 60s.
63. Yeah, I started teaching in the 63, 64 school year. Because the summer it was in 63, and then that fall turned to 64.
Okay.
So 63, 64 school year when I started teaching.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you retired from Albion schools.
You know, I've been back once already to ask the administration, what year did I retire? It won't stick with me. It just will not stick with me.
Well, there came a time when you got involved in local politics.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about that.
I was living on Gill Street, and how did it happen? They said that they was going to tear down all the houses on Gill Street and some on Cass Street, where I was living, and they was going to build some apartment buildings, and I didn't go for that. I really didn't. So they purchased my dad's house, and I don't know, just about everybody in that area, and they had to move out and find another place. And that's when and then they never did build anything down there. And that's when I decided to get into politics. Yeah, so that's how I got started. Yeah. That was fun. That's when I learned who was truthful and who wasn't truthful, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to name names?
No. I probably couldn't remember them all anyway.
Maybe it's a good thing.
Big, long list. So, let's see, so we covered teaching and
So all in all, looking back on things, your experience at Westward School, would you say that it was a good experience?
To me, you know, it was a good experience. In that area, it's just like, I didn't know that we were poor. I just didn't know.
No.
And I thought we had just as much as everybody else had, you know. And I didn't know that we was poor, you know.
Who were some of your friends when you were growing up?
You know, I had a kind of restricted growing up. There wasn't much that I could do, and I couldn't venture too far away from the house. So I guess it was the Harrises, Leslie and Jimmy, and their sisters. And there was various one that would come and leave. And I just cannot recall their names. But Leslie and Jimmy, you know, we used to see them just about every day. So that was a family that I just couldn't forget.
Right.
Preacher, Clarence Clark, his aunt had a fish market right on the corner of Cass and Gill Street. So I remember them very well. That's about it. And Bob Pearson had a store called Our Little Store on Cass Street. Yeah. And you all lived 3 doors from there at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was your family affiliated with any church?
Yeah, we was Methodist.
Okay.
We was at Lewis Chapel.
Okay.
Later on, in fact, some factory built a lot of homes down there for the blacks when they came from the South.
Down in Malibu.
That's the Melbourne. And they built Lewis Chapel and Macedonia. When they first built, I don't know, I think Bethel too, but I'm not sure whether the Malibu built Bethel or not.
I think they did. The one on Washington Street. I think they did themselves. But the one on Culver, right on the corner of Cass and
That was
Culver.
Macedonia.
And then Macedonia was down a little way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know they contributed something to the construction of both of those. Yeah. Well, so you remember quite a bit.
Yeah, I got to get to probing, and probably still a little more if somebody probed in the right direction, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious about your mother and her activities while you were growing up.
My mother, it was 9 of us. 5 boys and 4 girls. Yeah. My mother died when I was 2, so I really don't remember her. My sisters and my brothers are the one that raised me because I was the youngest in the family when she died. Yeah, so I don't remember her at all. Yeah.
So your father was a single parent?
He was a single parent until he was a single parent for years. Until I got into junior high, I think it was. He remarried after I got into junior high.
So where do you come in the 9 children? Are you on the youngest?
I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest.
I'm the youngest, yeah. And out of that clan, we got a brother who's a doctor, and a sister, I have a sister that was a teacher also. She retired from teaching.
Well, this
It's
is
pretty
good.
amazing.
Yeah. See, you did it.
Okay.
Do you have anything that you would like to forget?
No, but during that time, they still got the railroad tracks there, and the cars, they used to come up around the railroad tracks, which is close to my house, and they carried coal.
Yeah.
And my father and some of the other men there, they would, and then they would leave the cars on the tracks for I don't know how many days.
Yeah.
But so my father and some of the other men, they would get them what is called a crocus sack. And they would fill it full of coal and put it on their backs and take it home. And that's how they help heat their houses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until they start putting guards out there. Yeah.
Did you ever walk across the trestle?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was, it used to be scary, but then after that, it was just plain like doing anything else. You know?
Yeah.
Some of the people we've talked to talked about taking the lunch to the parents at the Malibu.
Yeah, they did. The Nollywood ate at a certain time. I've done that myself. I've taken my father's, his lunch. Yeah, I've done that too. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So did you walk the trestle to do that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the quick way.
The quick way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then, before they put the trestle in, it was a train. Now that part I didn't get too much about. I've heard this from my older sibling, that there was something like a urban train that traveled down that area, and I think it went as far as Homer. I think it was. I think it went that way towards
Yeah.
Homer.
The one that went to Homer was the regular rail. The electric train that was the interurban.
Interurban.
It came down. It came into town. It's the main trail where the nature center is now.
Yeah.
That was the track. It would come down. I was just looking at the map. Came down Erie, turned at Erie onto Superior, and there was a station where people got in and out. And then it went on to Cass and went down Cass for a while, and then it went up over the other rails on a big trestle up higher.
Yeah, it went down to Ann Street.
It went down Ann Street,
And there was,
and then up over a trestle,
Yeah.
and then out Austin to Marshall.
yeah.
See, that was a little bit before my time.
That rail went out in 1928.
Okay.
When the automobile came in full force, the interurban people didn't ride it anymore, but it was here from about 1910 until about 1928.
Do you remember when Albion had a little bus service?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
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 And because I know it would go all the way down. I think it went all the way to Gale.
Yeah. I remember the bus service. But you know, on the corner, right across from the depot right now, you can see where that urban train used to run. The tracks are still there. Have you seen them lately? You know about that?
I knew about it. I haven't seen them lately because I know, and I remember the one on Ann Street because go down that hill and Larry Union's house across the street,
Yeah.
and that big cement
A big cement, yeah.
fixture was still there where the track went up and over.
There are interesting pictures of that, and it went right up over the other rail. But the one that was out by the Gale was a line that went down to Homer and then
Yeah.
went south.
Yeah.
That it came through there.
Yeah, it was like a spur
Mhm.
off of it that came up into the Gale, and there was another spur that went over into Malibu. Because when I lived on Cass, see those trains, I have pictures. The train was right parallel to Cass Street, right behind the fence,
Okay.
and the track came and went up past Bob Pearson's store,
Okay.
and those cars would be, I think they were full of coal, and they had some kind of bucket that came down and it would fill, and then it would go up on a track and dump all that coal over into the factory.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think they went to Indiana to get their iron ore that they used too. So some of it came up from the south,
Yeah.
and so that's how it was the transportation of the materials that they used for both of those factories came from the south. You would think they would come from northern Michigan, but I think
No, I
they
don't think
were
so.
supplied
Yeah.
from the southern.
Well, thank you,
It's pretty
Mr. Gant. This has
Okay.
been very good.
All right.
I really appreciate you.
That was